Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So things are not looking good for Joe Biden. They're looking even worse today than they were ever before because Donald Trump has a record lead according to the NBC News Poll. And there's many other reasons why, but this is probably the latest poll that shows Joe Biden struggling even more. So Donald Trump up by 5 in the popular vote over Joe Biden. He never led this poll by that much. This poll actually had Democrats winning the popular vote in 2022. They underestimated Republicans by 3 percentage points, a little bit more than that actually. But right now, they show Donald Trump up in this poll, and you could look at this poll's history. Approval rating in the NBC poll at the start of a re-election year, Bush in 2004 was at 54, Obama in 2012 was at 49, Trump in 2020 was at 46, but Joe Biden right here, right now, he's at 37%. This guy is absolutely despised. There's no enthusiasm for him. And you're looking at these poll results right here. Donald Trump never led Biden in this poll leading up to 2020. The closest he was back in January of 2020 before COVID, and Biden still had a 6-point lead in that poll. Biden led by as much as 14 percentage points in October of 2020, according to this poll. However, things have changed. Biden led this poll back in the summer. It was tied in September. Trump had a very narrow lead back in November. And now after the primary, despite so many people concern trolling the never Trumpers, they were saying that Donald Trump would lose ground in the polls when it was clear he would get the nomination. Nope. Donald Trump is up by 5 in the most recent poll. In the aggregate, he leads by 2.1%. And if it wasn't for one outlier Quinnipiac poll, he probably would lead by around 4. And that's the way these things are right now. Joe Biden is in a lot of trouble. And you look into this poll, he's struggling with young voters. He's struggling with Hispanic voters. Donald Trump is doing very well among white working class voters. Biden is not hitting his target margin he really needs to win with any demographic in this poll. And as a result, he's struggling. And he's polling, I guess you would say, in this poll above his approval rating, which means that a lot of the undecided voters, they disapprove of Joe Biden, which is a major problem. That doesn't mean they can't eventually come home to him, but still, this is not good news, and it's a theme we see throughout. And you look at his approval rating, and he's down by over 15 points in terms of his approval rating. That is never a good sign. The direction of the country polls show that 75% of the country says that the country is not going in the right direction. That is never a good sign. And Biden will tout an economic recovery that a lot of Americans aren't even seeing. And now we see reports that gas prices might start to go up before the year is over, which is not a good sign for Biden's reelection either. And you look into the recent primary that took place last night, not a lot of people knew about it in South Carolina because, it's not a really contested primary, but still you look at the enthusiasm overall. Biden did well in terms of his percentage margin. Nobody's going to deny that, getting 96% of the vote. Yes, he's an incumbent, but still, that's not a bad margin of victory in any case. But there is a major problem here with this primary. Biden only got 126,000 votes, and that is a very small portion of what he got in 2020, when he didn't even get half of all South Carolina Democrats voting for him. And this is absolutely huge because when you're an incumbent and you're generating this little enthusiasm, it's a big problem because they were saying turnout would be, 300,000 for Biden and he would win big. And while his margin of victory was decent, and there's no denying that, his turnout shows that he has a massive enthusiasm problem. He absolutely does. And you're looking into this. He ended up with 126,000 votes. And you want to look at Donald Trump in New Hampshire in 2020, he gained. Iowa in 2020, he gained from 2016, despite being in a similar situation where he was an incumbent president that had just nominal opposition. So this is awful news all around for Joe Biden in the state of South Carolina, because he's struggling with enthusiasm. But his people are still spinning it as if this is some sort of victory. They're doubling down on major warning signs for their campaign. They're ignoring them, and that is an absolutely awful thing to do when you are running for president. It's one of the reasons why the Ron DeSantis campaign failed so big, because any criticism they would just laugh at. They would say everything's fine. They would say the polls are all off by 30, 40, or 50 points, and they're all fake. And then it turns out, well, they were not so fake. They found a new cope, and now the guy had to drop out of the race. And you're kind of seeing a similar thing here with Biden's campaign, because they're just saying, oh, well, the midterms went so great for us, therefore the presidential campaign is going to go great if we replicate the same strategy. But Biden wasn't on the ballot in the midterms. Midterm years are different. They don't understand that. And Republicans found that out the hard way in 2022. I own that, but Democrats are about to find out the hard way this time around if they keep doing what they're doing. And Biden thinks he genuinely can win Florida. He's spending all of his time trying to win the state of Florida. Florida is a state that voted heavily Republican in 2020, despite most states in the country moving a little bit to the left. Florida's moving to the right. Republicans surged. They overtook Democrats in voter registration there a couple of years ago. That lead has increased. You have all of these boomers from the Northeast retiring in Florida. The margin of victory for Republicans in Florida is increasing, but Biden still is going to Florida to campaign. And in this article, it talks about how some of his campaign directors are saying they anticipate Biden to seriously contest Florida. It's not how it works. They did the same thing with Texas in 2020. This is arguably more laughable. Trump is more likely to win the state of Minnesota than Biden is to win the state of Florida, especially if you have a high third-party vote share. And I know Trump is going out there and he's talking about, contesting New York or New Jersey, but still, polls show those states being within 10. I don't think doing an early rally there would necessarily hurt, but also there's down-ballot effects that would help out Republicans at a lot of those House seats up in New York. It would make sense from a strategic perspective. There's really not any competitive House race in Florida, so there's no real reason why Biden needs to be going down to Florida campaigning. They're just spending time and energy in Florida, Texas, North Carolina. It's not going to help him. Biden is despised in those states. The election's going to be won in the Rust Belt, and Biden, he's not doing all that well there. Like, of all the swing states, maybe Arizona he could pick off at this point, but it's going to take a lot to change for Joe Biden to get back on the right track, because there really just is no pathway. And they could say, well, what about Donald Trump? What if he gets convicted or something? But this same poll showed that if Trump gets convicted, the popular vote would still be in a virtual tie, which means Donald Trump would still win the election in the Electoral College. But even so, the cases are falling apart. They are falling apart. You look at what's happening in Georgia. You look at what's happening with the D.C. case as well. They're not doing too well. And the D.C. trial, it's off the calendar. We don't know when it's going to return. There's all these complications. Same thing with Florida, probably going to be delayed after the election. Georgia is in complete and total disarray for various reasons. And the only case that you may get a conviction on is New York, which is like the dumbest case of them all. And these are misdemeanors, or they should be. The statute of limitations expired in 2021. They had to change the law. And that's probably the one case that if Trump gets convicted, it may actually help him, because all it's going to do is energize his base even further. And they've indicted this guy, and they've thrown everything that they possibly could at this guy, and he is in the best position to win an election of his political career. Now, a lot can change in that we know we have a long way to go. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm not telling people to be complacent because they shouldn't be complacent. This is still a competitive election. It will be a competitive election. We know that Biden's going to try everything possible, and the people around him are going to try everything possible to go out there and sink Donald Trump at any opportunity. But still, given some of their recent antics, it seems as if they're just doubling down on everything that they need to fix. And that's not something that's good. And whether it's the Biden's campaign strategy just being awful, or whether it's Biden trying to claim like this is some massive victory when he didn't even get like half of his 2020 vote share, which wasn't even half of the entire electorate in South Carolina, it's a massive problem. I mean, Biden only got 126,000 votes. Jim Clyburn in his primary for a congressional district, I believe, got a majority of that in 2022, and he was running pretty much uncontested. So either way, there's really no justification for Biden's lack of enthusiasm. It is just one primary state, and I think we should wait until we get more results or after Super Tuesday to extrapolate what it may mean even further. But still, awful, awful performance for Joe Biden all around. He's doing poorly in the polls that usually have overestimated him. And Donald Trump, so long as he just goes out there, keeps doing what he's doing, relatively staying on message, comparing and contrasting his administration to this joke of an administration, Donald Trump will be the favorite, and he will be not just the 45th, but also the 47th president of these United States of America. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, subscribe to the channel. More than half of you guys are not yet subscribed. Make sure you do so, and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.